Okay, welcome back. Here we are. I did a little bit of work on it last night after the end of the video, but I wouldn't say that I've really made any progress. So I haven't solved any of the problems that I'm currently experiencing or dealing with. However, I was able to actually just tidy up and comment on the blueprint for the player controller because a lot of stuff goes on in the player controller, all the saving and the loading, pretty much all of that's going on in there, and a little bit of adding items to the inventory happens in there too. So just in an effort to try and understand more deeply what's happening so that I can reverse engineer it, but it's loaded now, so I'll show it to you. It's much prettier now than it was before. Not amazing, but I know, okay, there's the bit where the game saves. Here's the bit where the game loads from an existing file. Here's the bit where there's no existing file, so we're creating a new original one. Here's all the stuff that happens when we begin play. The initial setup, creating the inventory, setting the mouse. And also I put the clamping of the camera here, because for whatever reason I put it at the end over there. So this is all consistently working smoothly. And actually when I went and tidied everything up, there was a lot of stuff that I didn't need, like something was getting set and then it was getting set straight away again, and I was like, that doesn't make sense, that doesn't need to be there. And I remember it was because I copy and pasted certain things and moved things into things. So I think during that time there was a little bit of redundancy. So some of these things did slim down, like this section was a bit longer, but I managed to make this one a bit smaller. But what I was going to say was during that process I actually broke the entire save system and it wasn't working. The whole thing wasn't working. And I couldn't think of why, because I wasn't getting any errors. And I basically, originally, all of these things that take VP save, they were all getting pulled all the way over to here. But it's like, we set this to this, so why don't I just call it from here, instead of dragging them all from there? And I knew that that couldn't be what was wrong. I thought, that seems to make sense in my head, that it should work this way. You know, and that was getting set. So what was it? What was it? And it was just here. Basically, for each add to inventory. No, it wasn't that one. It was this one. Yeah. So set, save to slot. But, yeah. So what I was doing was go set, and then after you set, save to slot. Because if you look here, for each loop through. So for each item in the inventory, let's loop through it and set them to be in the inventory, as they in the saved version of the inventory, if you will. And then loop through and save the game after each item. And so it would work, but it would only work if the player had picked up at least one item. And obviously we still can't successfully remove items. So, you know, I was like, oh, it's easy, a quick fix. I'll just make some script or something where we just add item to the player once the game starts, because like the player's not going to start the game with 0 items, right? They're going to have some kind of starting equipment. But it kind of bugged me. I was like, what is going on here? And so I was like, oh, obviously I just do these inside of a loop, and then when I've finished the loop, then I save the game. So even if there's nothing in here, we'll just not do this, because yeah, if we're doing something for each and then saving, there needs to be at least one for us to actually reach the save point. Otherwise it just won't run, I suppose. And then if it won't run, it'll go to the completed, and when it goes to the completed, it saves the game. So everything is working, nothing's broken, everything's neat and tidy now. I'll show you the other stuff. Yep, so here we see all the picking up an item with E, and here we have turning the inventory on and off, and then here we have enable, disable the pause menu. These two I need to kind of go through and fix up a little bit, because as I was saying, I can tab and then turn on inventory and vice versa. I don't want to be doing that. And all my player's movement is right here. So if I do add any jumping, it'll be in over here. I'll just extend this one. And the player's camera movement and resetting the level. So nice and simple, nice and clean. But I haven't done it for any other scripts yet. So depending how we go with the problems and the potential solutions, because I did think about some solutions. I have some ideas in my head about how I might be able to do it. And I won't get into that. I'll just try and figure it out and figure it out. Once I get it done, I'll be able to come back and be very happy and tell you how it resolved. So simple in the end, because it is. It's very complicated at the beginning, and by the end, it's very simple. Which is what you want. You want to understand what's going on. That was my issue with the save thing being broken, was I thought everything is so confusing that it's magic. And so when it works, it's magic, and when it doesn't work, I am hopeless. And it reminds me a bit of Warhammer 40k. I want to pray to the computer gods to just make the thing work. But it's like, no. These things they're very logical. So you just have to go through each step carefully. And in this case, I remember I was looking over here and I was like, but I said it here. So why isn't it working? Why is it, I'm setting it, why isn't it working? And it was actually all the way at the very end. That was why. But it was from bugging, from playing through it and figuring out, okay, what exactly in the process is busting? What's not working? So managed to figure that out, thankfully. So yeah, I'll be back soon. Okay, today's been a fun adventure, trying to keep the length of the video down, but it's really just because I didn't have anything to show you, because I was just going around and around in circles with the same problem. But I think we're almost at the final lap. So I think something that I never implemented was an easy way to discern between different items. I kind of tried doing that, but I'm doing that with the thing like the index. So if it's a list and we're adding things to the list, whenever we remove something from the list, everything else gets shuffled up. So basically I need some kind of a unique ID that identifies that specific item, so that that specific item can load back. Because let's say we pick up the steel sword first, and then we pick up the iron sword. Steel sword, iron sword. We can save the game and load the game, and we still have them in their correct positions. However, I'll show you what it looks like. So we'll drop the iron sword. I've not put in this feature yet for actually instantiating it, because I just need to get the stability. So steel sword, and we just saved. So loading it back, steel sword. Excellent. So really the only problem so far, which is kind of a big problem when you think about it, but not too bad, is iron sword is the first one on the list, steel sword is the second one on the list. So let's remove the iron sword so that we just have the steel sword left, and we save, and then reload, and it should be back to iron sword. So it's getting a little confused about which item it should be loading back, I think, because there's no easy way for it to discern between different unique items. However, we can drop all the items and save and load. And that might not seem like a big deal to you, but for a while the first item that we added to the list would just not leave, like even though we've removed it here, and then we save, I could see up there, because I originally not just had the save message, which is just hello, I was originally having the list of items in the inventory. And so even though it was removed, we'd save and it would still be there, and then we would load back and it would still be there. But it's not there anymore. So, if all items are the same, it doesn't really matter. But obviously the whole point of an inventory is that all the items are different, and we want to keep the things that we pick up later and discard the things that we picked up earlier. So Having it this way and not the other way is not ideal. Having it get confused at all about which item to load back is not ideal. Let's try that again. I keep getting confused about what I'm trying to show you. I mean, you already know, but I just want to do it this way because this way looks pretty, because this way it looks like it works. Even though, as I showed you, it definitely does not work. So we'll do the same thing again, but this time we're going to drop the iron, as you would, because steel is a bit nicer than iron. Save and load, and it turns into the iron sword. And very interesting, see how this is basic sword. See, I didn't notice this before. Nice that I'm doing it with you guys. Whoa. This iron sword and this iron steel sword. So this iron sword, it's just basic sword. I mean, that was empty. I thought this one was just saying sword. I was not seeing the basic. But anyway, as I was saying, actually, I haven't even experimented with more than 2 items. I mean, I did earlier, but that was when I was still grasping the depth of the problem that I have to solve. And yeah, it's not fun, but it is fun actually. You know, it is just problem solving. If I was to give anybody advice, it would be, don't be discouraged. This is what you got into game development for. It's actually because you like studying logic. You like thinking through problems in a very kind of logical way. I don't know how else to describe it, because it is pure logic in a way. It is purely just like computers don't make mistakes. People do in their thinking, you know? And so somewhere along the trail I have made a misstep. So we'll pick up a bunch of items and see what happens. So let's look at it. Iron, steel, steel, iron. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1. Try and remember that. All good so far. But now, if we drop this one, let's drop this one, because then I feel like this one will turn into iron. So we should have iron, steel, iron, 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 I believe. I'm very happy if it's not like that. But now, you see, the last one is iron, steel. I'm pretty sure the last one was supposed to be iron, wasn't it? I don't know. Let's try and pick them up in a logical order. So let me just see. No. This is where the video is going to get long. I thought I'd make a really short video today because we're keeping it simple and clean. So that's iron, that's iron. Are you an iron one? Yes, thank you. We got lucky. So, iron, 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 steel, steel, steel. And let's remove the top iron one. So now there is 2 iron, 3 steel. It's a bit easier to remember. Let's... So, 2 iron and 3 steel. Save. Load. Yeah, see, 3 iron and 2 steel. See, I dropped an iron sword, and one of my steel swords turned into an iron sword. So, I think if we drop the steel sword, though, we might be alright. Iron, 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 steel. So we should have 3 iron and 1 steel. Yes. But now, let's make it even harder. Iron, steel, iron, steel, iron, steel. I'm just trying to figure out exactly how these rules are working. So I know if we drop the steel one, we'll be fine. Because the bottom one doesn't seem to affect the ones above it. Iron, steel, iron, steel. All good. But now let's remove this steel one. And so we should have iron, steel, iron, iron. If it's not going to affect anything below it. Yeah, so iron, steel, and then we'll have an iron one and an iron one if everything is going correctly, which it's definitely not, as you can see. Yeah. So it's kind of like they're passing it down. And that was what I was meaning about the index. I think is getting a little bit confused. So what we really need to implement before we may proceed is some kind of a unique ID for each item, so that steel swords are always going to stay as steel swords, etc., etc. I just gotta think real careful. But you know, I'm actually, even though it's a broken system that I'm showing you, I am actually pretty happy, because it was only in the last, I mean, I did take quite a few breaks. I was pretty relaxed. I wouldn't say that I'm a really hard-working person. I like to do things in an easy, gentle way. And I felt great today, actually. Jeez, I worked for like... There was about an hour after lunch where, you know, I just lost track of time. And even though I was just going round and round in circles, I was entertained and also engaged. You know, it's not like something passive where I'm just absorbing it. You know, it's making me work. But if I could stay really calm and relaxed and just approach it very slowly and carefully, ideally, I'd be like that the whole time, all the way through. And then I wouldn't make mistakes along the way, because what we're looking at here is some mistake that's happened along the way, such as not considering unique item IDs. Something else I need to learn about as well. So he's just adding them, but one of the things that fixed the problem... Do you want to see? No, you don't want to see the problem. I was going to say, if I set this back to be like one of these ones, add item to array versus add item to array unique. If I set it back to just add, then we won't be able to remove the first item that we have to pick up. Like, it'll seem like it's removed, but then we'll save the game with the empty inventory and load it back, and that first item will always be there. And it doesn't matter what type of item it is, it's whatever one was the first one. And that was getting to me. It's really getting to me. But as I was saying, you know, you just gotta learn how to stay really calm and relaxed. And then problems they're fun, you know, because they're challenges. So yeah, I'm gonna stop the video to say bye-bye to you all. I may continue to do some more work tonight, because I don't want you guys to keep watching me work on the inventory system, because it's been a few days now, hasn't it? And I'm actually terribly excited about the next thing, because, as I was saying, I like to think about problems and solutions, and bringing that into, see, I kind of want to have a nice distance from the wall, so we're not getting too much of that. A little bit's okay, but we don't really want too much of that. But with problems and solutions, something I've always struggled with is having a really nice looking level design. And I don't think I'm incapable of doing really good level design. It's more just that I'm ambitious with the scale. I want to design something that's huge, and also something that's incredibly cozy and detailed. It's definitely becoming more of a trend these days, that word cozy being used to describe games. And I'm fine with that, you know? It's just another way of talking about what I would call aesthetics, mood, atmosphere. Those are all words I would use to describe. You know, because I think a lot of games that you wouldn't call cozy are cozy. I'm thinking of Nukem 3D, and I'm thinking about Oblivion. I think a lot of people would say, yeah, Oblivion's cozy, sure. But what do you mean by Nukem 3D? What are you talking about? And it's not something that you can put into words because it's the gestalt. It's the combination of various different things coming together. And one of the different ingredients as well is your own subjective experience that you bring towards something. So I know if somebody's never heard of Duke Nukem and I showed it to them today, the experience, if they looked at it as an adult, they wouldn't have the same experience that I have when I look at it, because when I look at it, I'm remembering my childhood. And people kind of summarize this whole thing and just say, oh, nostalgia. But I don't know, I feel like all art forms are a sort of recycling of memory. And so to just call it nostalgia is to not really do justice to what's going on there. Also, I will show you this one because I'm a little bit proud. Tidied up. So this bit, it's tidied up. It's just the box, commenting box got deleted. And yeah, I haven't tidied up everything in it because I've added some stuff, like this is for my removing the items. But it's easy for me to see now, okay, great, here's where I do little savey stuff. And that's just kind of like for reorienting myself, you know, because as I was saying, you want to be clean and calm and relaxed. And so you constantly have to flow through and think about each step along the way. And so to kind of separate them into groups and to try and like line them up so that they... But I also find the flaw of doing this is that now if I want to change stuff, it's like, it's so tight, there's not enough space, you know, because I don't want to just drag it out and make it messy again. So it's not all perfect. Obviously you should make a great working code and then tidy it up, rather than... I mean, I understand, yeah, it's good to have good practice and keep it clean as you go, but also when you clean it up and you make it really straight, that makes it a little bit harder to kind of pull it apart and start changing things in it. But yes, I want to make a game that feels very, we'll say cozy, or we'll say atmospheric, or we'll say nostalgic, or we'll say mood. I'm just thinking, because I studied film, you know, films, like, you know, you have like I don't know, I don't want to compare them, but if you think of it like a soup and you have different ingredients, some people will use some ingredients more than other ingredients, right? So I guess Michael Bay, Transformers, if you watched it growing up, you'll notice that there is an aesthetic, there is a mood to it. Of course there is, because it's in everything, and it's partly informed by your own memory and experience from knowing that. But I guess a classic example for cinema would be Andrei Tarkovsky. Yeah, just that sense of being in a place, and it's not about what's happening, but more about the feeling of being there. I think he does a really good job of encapsulating that. So I think Michael Bay is trying to show you something that's happening, that's very exciting, but it is a place that you're being as well. And there are things happening in Andrei Tarkovsky's, I'll say Stalker, just because that's a lovely video game, Roadside Picnic. But even though there's stuff happening, he really takes his time because he's putting more of this other ingredient, which is this place, this atmosphere. So I want to make a game that has great atmosphere, great place, and so that requires a lot of attention to detail in the minute space that you're in. So each part of the world needs to feel good. The problem with open world games is, you know, it feels bland because we want to give people the sense of scope, that they can go anywhere at the cost of that intimacy and closeness with one's surroundings. So how do I do it? How do I get a game with a huge amount of scope and also have a really nice detailed world and not go crazy working all the time and not spend lots of money hiring a huge team of people to work for me and not spend 15 or 20 years making it? How can I get it done in a practical, reasonable way? And yeah, the only way I can think of it is it's a problem that I can solve with coding. So yeah, the reason I want to get this inventory done is because there was a system that I implemented in my last project in Godot before I decided I would have a go with Unreal. And that system worked in Godot, and I remember when I got it working, it was a very exciting feeling of pushing the limits of what's possible. Like, I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm doing stuff that other people have done before in other genres of games. But seeing it for myself, that I was able to do it in Godot, I was like, whoa, you know? And then I just had to go through and do all the other things that came with it. And I was a little tired. Because as I was saying, things like step height, just really simple things, even saving and loading. I think in this one, saving and loading is far greater, even though you can see I'm still struggling with a basic thing like an inventory, getting it to save and load. But I don't want to blame the engine for that. No, that's just my thinking, and I have to slow down and be very methodical with my approach. But basically, once we're like, if I can't get it done tonight, then I might just move on tomorrow, and I'll just get rid of the drop button for now, or at least I'll hide it until I have the stamina to come back to it. Because I want to get this other system implemented, this one that I did in Godot, that really excited me. And when that one's done, that'd be something I'd be really proud to show you guys, and something I'd be really give you a sense of where I'm going with it and how it is my attempt to answer the problem of can we have a very, very broad scope whilst also maintaining a profound sense of intimacy and closeness. So, yeah, wish me luck.